My content is intended for adult collectors of the product, not made for kids.
Alright, for this video, it's going to be covering Magma Ifrit i7. I did the stupid cat ears thing, there you go, so you don't say I didn't show it off in a review. This video is going to be reviewing Magma Ifrit i7, this release with Hasbro's quad drive system in the Cosmic Vector battle set. Make sure you check out my other socials and comment the video, let me know your thoughts, and make sure you watch till the end, please, and greatly appreciated. This is going to be sort of an analysis video where I try to go more in depth than I typically do on reviews to try to cover and really see how effective something was. To go over, this Beyblade is an evolution of the original Ifrit released in 2016 by Takara Tomy. The owner for this Beyblade is Ilya Mao, with this being the first time a female blader in Burst owned a main Bey that was released. On the other occasions Beyblade had female bladers, they just owned random stuff. However, in this case, it was very special with Ilya, as that she actually had a Bey, she was actually relevant in the story, it was something actually kind of cool. But this is a very interesting case because there is no Takara Tomy release, instead it's only Hasbro. It was only meant to advertise the quad drive system. That is why you see in the show that it is the quad drive Bey, that's why it has the quad drive modes and everything. It was not intended to be a Takara Tomy release, it was just always meant to advertise the cutie system. With it both being important as it is owned by a main female blader and an evolution to a layer released years ago, how does it hold up? Starting off with the core Ifrit i7, the core is based on Ifrit, a powerful type of demon in Islamic mythology. The design of the core is loosely based on the original face design, with small changes done to it. As well, the avatar also has changed from a demon-like creature to a cat-like demon dragon. On average, it weighs about 4.5 grams. With the slopes of this release, it is very weak. The burst resistance is very poor on this. You will need a tight driver if you want to use this core. Otherwise, you would not use this core for any real competitive reasons, and this would just be for collection use only. Moving on to the blade, Magma. Unlike the original Inferno Ifrit design, that the blade was triangular, Magma is a lot more rounded, with the blades going down to more up, down to more up, which some could even compare to the Astro Blade for its actual design. The blade weighs a total of about 6.16 grams, being heavier than the Takara Tomy Dynamite, being about 5.56 grams. While this may seem impressive at first, if I were to make Dynamite Belial 2, it weighs a total of about 26.34 grams, while Magma Balefire 2 weighs only 12.17 grams. Compared to other layers for Hasbro that is used, it is around the typical weight that layers usually are, being close to the original Switch Strike for some things, not being too heavy. Hasbro is so far different from Takara Tomy in terms of actual competitive value that you'd have to be absolutely insane to think that they ever actually could stand a chance in the current state that they actually are. Compared to other Hasbro stuff, as we will go in more depth later on with the video, the weight could have been a little bit better for it. It's not exactly something to be happy about, especially when you consider how greatly outclassed it is by TT. And I do mean greatly. Anyways, wait, what's that? Armor Gravity Ring G03. Yeah, so this really just goes without saying, but trying to read the current season Hasbro Bey is like seeing the code in the Matrix. You have Magma Ifrit i7 QD06TA21-QB01G03. With the Takara system, the entire point of low and high mode was for low and high mode to either have a low or a high center of gravity. Since all the armors are plastic, it's really just purely cosmetic for use for the armor, which is really sad, or in this case the name is officially Gravity Ring, but for the sake of the video I will probably refer to it as armor. It also weighs 1.66 grams, which compared to another armor, it is extremely outclassed. So now this portion of the video is going to be talking about testings. So for attack in low mode, I tested out Magma Bellfire CQX Extreme against Monster Genesis Wheel Bearing / Absorb. So my results with this is, because the fact that, you know, Ifrit has pretty poor slopes, I had to use the best thing possible, which was Bellfire, and even then, with Extreme, maybe there's some rounds where it could have done it and possibly KO, but it bursts far too much, which I don't know if it's the factors of maybe the driver spring, the factors of maybe the recoil on the blade, or the factors that the slopes aren't really that good. I think it's probably a mix, a little bit of everything. With low mode with Magma Bellfire CQX Evolutional SP, this one did actually a lot better. It was actually able to give really good hits, though it didn't win too much, but it is possible to use this and KO, so honestly this would probably be the best case if you try to want to have a Magma attack combination using a QD disc at the current moment. It also bursts a little bit less. With high mode, this was absolutely a waste of time to do, but I still did it anyways. High mode, I would say, generally has worse burst resistance than low mode. It's due to how it is exposed. So on low mode, the underneath is protected, but in high mode, it is more exposed. So that is my only guess to potentially why there is such a difference. Either way, I didn't really get anything. The only thing I maybe got out of it was that Evolutional works better for this than Extreme would. Either way, it was overall for attack, performance, very poor. Like even if there is some use in this, there are way better options that Hasbro has to offer for you to actually use. Now, for same spin performance, whether it was Monster Genesis Wheel Bearing or Triumph Dragon Wheel Bearing, it lost poorly, getting outspun really, really bad, having no chance of really winning. It really doesn't do itself any favors with how Hasbro had to cut so much cost hauling out everything, and like the DB stuff is really designed with those armors in mind, right? So when you take away such like a core function of it, it doesn't surprise me too much that these things can't perform that well. Now, when it comes to same spin with high mode, the results were pretty much the same, really no difference, and it's sad to see. With opposite spin, with Magma Bellfire CQX Bearing, this used against Fafnir with Wheel Bearing, and against Inferno with, again, Wheel Bearing. Against Drain, on average, it kept losing bad. Against Inferno, when it was with low, it could kind of tie. Now, on opposite spin, high mode. Now, similar to Takara Tomy, when it comes to opposite spin matchups, high mode sometimes actually works in your favor. I'm assuming just because of the height difference and how you're equalizing near the end. It can actually work in your favor. While it didn't beat Drain, it did do a little bit better against Inferno, being able either Inferno could beat it or it could beat Inferno, going either way. But once again, mediocre performance. Nothing really that impresses me. Moving on to the disc, which is CQX. Now this is a Hasbro exclusive disc that is a 6-bladed design, with the design kind of being similar to Magma, where a blade will start downwards and go towards up. On average, it weighs about 25.34, which compared to the lightest DB discs like Karma, which is about 29.2, or even tapered, 28.93 on the lightest one that I have. It can manage to be heavier than Hasbro wheel, depends on what Hasbro wheel, and obviously depends on what CQX disc, because these things can vary. As I am sure you have heard from all the paid sponsor videos, the big thing with Quad Drive is 4-in-1. Now, the 4-in-1 meaning low and high, and as well the driver with or without the attachment with Core and Apex, or Core Plus and Apex Plus, depending if you have the attachment or not. So as far as Jaggy is actually concerned, it does have a weak spring. Aside from that, like, we've had drivers like Destroy. There are much better attack options to use than using Jaggy. Even if you wanted, even if you just wanted to get Magma just cuz, right? There are better options. Like, for an example, there is a driver that is Assault Q. That is a better spring than Jaggy. So if you wanted to use the base with the attachment on it, it would be better to use that than it would be for Jaggy, because it's a weak spring, it's outclassed. In general, it's not good for modern Hasbro. If you want to maybe use on the older stuff, then maybe. As far as the attachment goes, with the wave attachment, a big difference is actually the design. Because while it is very similar, they kind of made it a teensy bit more kind of wider on this little flat part. Not only that, but there is a little bit of a height difference between the two, with Hasbro being actually taller. So being taller can be good or bad. Now, with the testings that I've done, which the first one I'm going to mention is with Triumph Wheel Assault plus Wave versus Triumph Absorb. If you manage to get a hit in with the wave attachment, you could potentially win with it. Though, how many times, it really does depend. If you don't really get that hit you need at the start, you are, I would say, screwed. Against Triumph Wheel versus Drain Wheel with Absorb versus Assault Wave, swapping the two, and either way, the results kind of just go, maybe they can tie with each other at best. But generally, I would say that maybe if you're going to be using this, I would say same spin. I don't really think opposite spin is the best idea. Okay, so final thoughts overall. Core sucks, it's garbage. Weak slopes, poor burst resistance. Now the blade maybe for attack, but even then it's like, okay, maybe on a better core, maybe it could be used, but again, I feel like there are a lot better options. And also same spin as well, like stamina-wise, like, oh god, no. Maybe like equal, maybe like opposite spin, maybe. And then after we of course have the Sequex disc. Now this disc I would say is probably the highlight of it. And as well I would say that, well, obviously Jaggy is awful because it's been outclassed. Like, unless you want to argue manga and dual layers, maybe it has use, but the spring isn't even that good. The wave attachment, okay, fair enough. So now people can be happy, right? Because I did the original review, right, where I say basically, hey, you know, when you compare it to the Japanese system, it doesn't really hold up. And even in general, this stuff doesn't seem that impressive. Now doing a video in depth comparing it to Hasbro stuff, I can say I am not impressed with QD at all. I really feel this is true. You're going to basically watch the reviews where they're like, oh my god, 4-in-1? Listen, if you want to be objective as possible, even QD is not really that much different from what we've been getting in the past. With Switch Strike, it was like prime Hasbro. Anything before Switch Strike up to Switch Strike, prime Hasbro. Turbo was not as bad as people said. There was, actually, there were some viable tips in Turbo. Quite a few viable tips that came out of Turbo, right? Not everything, okay, fine. Rise even had some stuff. Surge, not really, but you know what I mean? It's really just, if Hasbro just decided to not be so cheap on this stuff and really like just spend the money, because at this point, it's just because they know they can sell it and they can get away with it. Like, the base would be so much better, and I would be a lot less disappointed with QD. Like, that's all they need to do, right? So, fair as possible in the review I tried to do. I tried to go as in-depth as possible trying to cover it, so I do hope you enjoy it. I will try to do more videos like this in the future where I actually try to go in and cover it. I do know that these videos aren't exactly perfect, but it's my own really take on this stuff, and I do actually hope you enjoy. So bye!